Hello everyone, I am the Lore Explorer and this is Outer Wilds, a handcrafted open solar system exploration game from the viewpoint of a species who has just recently reached the stars. While exploring the solar system, we can find multiple different endings to the game by doing certain things. I thought it would be cool to go through each of these endings and talk about what's happening in them lore-wise. The cool thing about them is, depending on the mechanics at play, vastly different things can happen to us. So naturally, a video about the endings of the game will be entirely composed of spoilers. So if you haven't beaten Outer Wilds, or you want to try to find all of the endings for yourself, you've been warned. The Ash Twin Project serves as one of the most important mechanics to the game, and the one that gives us access to the most endings. It allows us to die, yet wake up in the past with our memories retained through a memory transfer and a negative time interval. But until we sync with the Nomai statue, that memory transfer mechanic just isn't active yet. So if we die before we activate the Nomai statue, by drowning or falling off a cliff, we simply get a message reading, "You are dead." But that doesn't really explain what just happened. Lore-wise, the loop is already active and is going to continue. We are already on like 9 million something. Another Hearthian would wake up at the campfire and mimic every step in our loop. But since they haven't connected to the Nomai statue, they wouldn't be able to change anything since they don't remember it. So as a player, we just get kicked back to the main menu to start again. We can also get the "You Are Dead" ending by removing the advanced black hole warp core from the Ash Twin projects and dying. Removing the core shuts down the time loop, and if we die before we reach the Eye of the Universe, there are no mechanics in place for the memory transfer. In this version of the ending, the loop actually does end, and we as a player fail to achieve the Nomai's goal of reaching the Eye. Lore-wise, our character's universe would continue on as is, and the Hearthians would all die via supernova. Luckily for the players, the game just kicks us back to the main menu and allows us to continue from the previous loop. Another ending we can get after shutting down the Ash Twin projects is called the Isolation or Drift ending. After removing the warp core, we can be selfish and just try to hop into our ship and fly away and just don't stop. Leaving the solar system entirely allows us to avoid the supernova, which allows us to survive. But this isn't so good for us really. We get a message reading, "The player's ship will drift through space until it's slowly depleted of its resources." To me, this is a hint that every loop has a Hearthian left behind, and only their memories get sent back. Since we shut down the Ash Twin projects, there's no mechanism in place to retrieve our memories and then send them back in time. So once the supernova happens and the Ash Twin projects fails to trigger, we are just left to drift. Luckily, we probably have enough marshmallows to hold out for years. We can also attempt to flee the solar system with the Ash Twin projects active to get a unique animation as well. Once the statues activate, we sort of see a bluish light surround our vision and eventually it completely blocks our viewpoint. At first, I thought this was our character freezing since they were so far away from the sun, but in reality, our spaceship has temperature control, and this is just the Nomai statue reaching out to obtain our memories. Now, the next two endings seem contradictory to most people, but I have entire videos dedicated to explaining this ending and also theory videos on what I think is actually happening, so I'm not going to get too into all of it again. In this video, I'm just going to try to explain the discrepancies between the two breaking space-time endings. Most people think that since the probe we send back in time is seen within the same time loop, this means that Self should also appear in the same time loop when we jump into the black hole as well. And if we take everything at face value, that makes sense. People view it, and the game hints that the ending is due to cause and effect being violated. If we actually look at it though, cause and effect would be violated the nanosecond it exits the white hole. We don't see the ending happen until we prevent our scout from entering the black hole. To me, the fact the ending doesn't happen right away suggests that our scout entering the black hole is not the cause of this new scout. I think that the cause of this new scout exiting the white hole is a version of us in a parallel timeline. They are shooting their probe into the black hole, causing it to exit the white hole in our timeline 1/1000th of a second earlier in time. But I think if we were able to follow the path of our alternate version scout, it would have entered a black hole first, then exited a white hole in our timeline 1/1000th of a second earlier. With Self on the other hand, there is no alternate us causing Self. We are Self. we actually jump into the black hole and exit in an alternate timeline. But again, the rules of cause and effect would be followed here from Self's viewpoint. We had to jump into the black hole before an alternate version of us could see us exit. Just like the alternate version of us had to shoot their scout into the black hole before we could see it exit the white hole. In this scenario, space-time wouldn't be breaking due to violations of cause and effect, but rather because having a copy of something, had it stayed in our universe, would alter the trajectory of space-time too much for it to handle. Reverting this effect prevents that from happening. It seems reasonable to me that altering the trajectory of space-time could break it. Now, as I usually say, there isn't really proof for this, but it's the only scenario that I can think of that kind of covers all its bases of why everything's happening. Quantum mechanics, time travel, us seeing things seemingly before they happen. It covers it all, and I think this is it. But I could be wrong. So much for not getting too into it. Anyway, to me, one of the most impactful endings in the game, aside from the intending ending, is Solemnum's fate. It explains to us what Solemnum has been going through these past 280,000 years. When all of the Nomai died due to ghost matter explosion, Solemn was on her first ceremonial visit to the Quantum Moon, which the Nomai held sacred. She first touched down on the south pole of the Quantum Moon, and shortly after the interloper exploded, killing her. But it seems as soon as she touched down, she was entangled with the moon. She split into 6 different quantum possibilities the moon presents. One possible version of her on each version of the moon. The cool thing about this is the ghost matter never reached the quantum moon's 6th location, which orbits the eye of the universe really far out in the solar system. If we reach the quantum moon's legendary 6th location, we are actually able to talk to the only possible version of her that didn't die in the ghost matter explosion. But even this doesn't allow us to get the ending called Solemnum's Fate. To actually get this ending, we have to shut down the Ash Twin projects. Once that is turned off, we can take the advanced warp core to the last person in the solar system who may have an idea of how it works. From there, we can't ask her about it, but we can spend the remainder of the loop with our newest friend. Looking through the vortex in the sky, we can actually watch the supernova devour the other versions of the moon, which is pretty interesting. But it doesn't reach us here. The supernova essentially mimics the ghost matter explosion and the experience the Nomai had. It reached every version of the quantum moon except for the 6th location. Just like Solemnum, we are entangled with the quantum moon, and with this supernova, the other 5 possible versions of us have died. But the 6th possible version of us was able to survive around the eye. But this doesn't really explain the ending we get. The screen fades out and it says, "How long have you been here? Minutes? Years? You can't quite tell, but you think your journey has come to an end." The last sentence mimics something Solemnum tells us, that she is not sure why, but she has a feeling that her journey has come to an end. If we pay attention, it also sort of explains how Solemnum was able to survive for so long on the quantum moon. Since the quantum moon is the natural moon of the eye of the universe, it too exists outside of the natural direction or effects of time. This gives us a sort of quantum immortality that allows us to stay as a quantum possibility until the end of the universe, and even possibly further than that. Interestingly, even though our computer and map isn't able to tell us where we are in time and space, it seems the Ash Twin Projects is able to locate us still, as it still does grab our memories if we haven't shut it down. And with that, the only ending left is the actual intended ending. But again, I've done multiple videos trying to explain what I think is happening at the eye of the universe. So in this video, I'm not going to go over all of that again. But what I will do is answer a common question I get about a certain aspect of the ending. If we shoot our scout into the eye of the universe or some of the quantum smoke, we lose connection with it. If it touches the quantum smoke or gets left behind in a separate quantum possibility, we can no longer call it back or use the scout. But if we watch closely in the 14.3 billion years later ending, only if we lost the scout at the eye of the universe, we can see it slowly fly by as if it hasn't aged a second. So the question is, how did it survive so long, and how did it even get here? Well, the eye of the universe and its wormhole seems to be portals that connect different universes. When we enter, we eventually find ourselves floating in front of the Big Bang of the new universe. We went from our universe to this new one. This is essentially how our scout got there as well, except it took a different path. We entered around the same time, but we exited a lot earlier than our scout did. The scout took 14.3 billion more years for it to exit the eye, and hopefully, how it survived is explained by Solemnum's ending. The scout simply didn't experience those 14.3 billion years since it was entangled with something that doesn't experience time. So in shorter terms, the eye connects both our universe and the next one, and the scout going through it preserves it in time. It doesn't experience that time. So it just pops out the other end as if 1 second passed and boom, it's 14.3 billion years later than when we exited, and that's it. Now, what I really found interesting about this is how the same ending screen can have totally different outcomes. All we get is a short phrase telling us what happened, but not how or why or what the results of that will be. So I figured it'd be a nice little video to make. If you liked the video, consider liking and sharing. And if you like the channel, consider subscribing. I try to release something about once a week, and it'll always come back to Outer Wilds. If you'd like to support the channel more directly, you can become a member by clicking the join button below. This unlocks some perks and gets you access to my past live stream, which leads me to my special thanks to the members here on this channel. I really appreciate the support. And as always, this is the Lore Explorer, and thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.